All right, guys, another day in the shop, firing it up. I'm gonna finish off the week. I'm Jimmy, we're making it work. If you're new here, we're gonna spend a day in the repair shop, show you what a mechanic goes through on a daily basis, the good and the bad, the trials and tribulations, and hopefully the good Lord will carry us through. The rough day yesterday. Finished off with bad news. My sister's got 2 kinds of cancer, bladder and skin cancer, so she's going in for surgery. And I had a customer complaint, and I had apparently a pedophile on my video, so I had to modify the video so I didn't attract any of them. Anyway, today's gonna be a better day. Let's get into this thing. Stay tuned. All right, Silverado, first thing this morning. We'll try to get this done and back to the customer today. Like I said yesterday, I can't detach this. It feels like it's gonna break if I force it. And they tell you anytime you detach it to replace it. So I'm gonna try to leave this hanging and just keep it out of my way and not break or damage it. Because we can't get one today, apparently. But I definitely don't wanna break it. Steering column's gotta come out of here next. Yesterday I started disconnecting everything. Gotta figure out how to get this lever out of here so I can pull the wiring harness off, because you gotta completely pull it out because it's kind of trapped in the dash hole. And I don't wanna cut this plastic or anything like that, so. Oh, I guess they weren't lying. It says to remove tilt lever, pull out. Okay. I just wasn't yanking on hard enough. I hate breaking stuff. I was trying to disconnect all these little connectors up here because it said remove wiring harness from column. But it was so complicated. A lot of these connectors are no fun to try to get out of here, and they're tie wrapped everywhere. So I look below, and it looks like there's 3 separate connectors in the dash you can take off from below and have the wiring harness come out with the column. So now I'm changing up my plans. I'm going to remove these shifter cable and the detent lock cable. This connector is behind the BCM. This one's the easiest one under the BCM. And then you get the real tricky guy up here. It's an airbag, I guess. It's got a yellow connector on it. It must be airbag. And then it pops into the side of the BCM in a little tab. And then that harness should pull through right here. There's also another little connector pin up there. And I got to get it out of there and fish it back in. It's almost like they don't want you to fix them. I'm just going to fish that wire out of there, and then when I put it back together, I got to fish it back in over the BCM down the side. Everything's got to come through this hole. This was the most difficult of all because it goes over the top through a bunch of razor brackets and razor plastic, and the little tab that you push into the bracket, it won't fit out between the metal brackets and the plastic housings. With that little tab on there, you got to take it out to fit it because it'll barely fit out between. I'm going to route it a better way than General Motors did because I know what I'm doing and they don't. Shut up! 13mm bolt, 15mm nut. Uh-oh. Got it. Hope I didn't hit you guys with the wrench, did I? Uh-oh, I can't see. Woo! Alright, that would even been hard when I was a young guy. It's not getting easier though. It's not so bad. Now that pinch bolt's loose. The only thing holding this thing in now, I believe, well, I took off this detent rod, not realizing that there's nothing else attached to it other than this connector. And I'm gonna put that connector that goes to it back on when I have it out. It's easier. But the 4 main bolts, 2 studs and 2 bolts. Actually, it's 2 studs with nuts and 2 bolts. And you also don't want to let the steering wheel turn. Once it's off the intermediate shaft, the steering wheel can freewheel, and the clock spring can only handle about 4 turns, maybe 5. So if you let it freewheel, it'll break the clock spring, and they're really expensive. So what I'm going to do is hold everything and not let it spin more than a 1/4 turn or so while I take it apart. And then I'll put a bungee cord on it to keep it from turning while it's out. Lots of Loctite. And 1 more bolt. Actually, nut, I should say. I know if I call a transit connector transit, it upsets people. I can only imagine what calling a nut a bolt would do. Alright. Come with me. I'm going to put you in a safe space. Now, gotta take the bezel out of the way, and I think you have to take the cluster out of the way. And there's a couple 7mm that'll hold the plastic dash onto the metal space frame. So popping that off, just let me get to these screws. There's 3 up top, and the rest clips in 7mm. This isn't really too bad of a job, but it's like the typical repair where you're going, why did they do it that way? So I guess that's why I'm a mechanic, not an engineer. I can't explain it. Should be one connector, I believe. Yep. It's got a little latch style connector. You gotta show it a little love. Uh-oh, I'm having flashbacks. You guys wanna see why? Oh, Mustang flashbacks. You get this connector off of here. You push the little safety and flip the lever over, and then you can slide it apart. Let go. You gotta make a note that this cluster connector comes through the right side hole here, and there's 4 bolts. Honestly, I don't have enough experience with these trucks to know if I should take all out, a couple of them out. Now I can go up in front and look, or I can just take them out. And I think there's like a plastic duct behind these 2, and these might go into something else, but I'll just pop them out of my way just in case. You gotta work your plastic clips around under this dash trim gently. Some of the clips will stay in the dash, some will come out with the piece. Usually I find you can put them back together, and no matter how they came apart, put it back together the same way. Here's another piece that when this truck's a little older, it's gonna break, because these clips are strong. It helps to have 2 plastic trim tools for this kind of thing, because I can leverage both sides of the clip and have less risk of breaking plastic. Because sometimes these clips are so strong, even on a new vehicle, it'll break the plastic, and the metal clip doesn't let go until after it snaps. So, like I've said enough times, it's probably not designed really to come apart, but we make it happen. You should be able to get this electric connector, and it should have some kind of slotted object on the front molded into it that'll pull out of the slot, usually. I haven't done one of these newer Silverados yet, so we're going to find out together what holds the front in. Yeah, it's got clips. Just like the old days. Got these plastic feet that grab onto the little ledge on the main part of the dash. Alright. Put it on the back with all the other parts. It's only plastic stuff. It's not going to hurt the finish on this. I've got this laid on the non-sharp edge, so always have to be conscious of what you're working with and trying not to do any damage. I try to deliver every vehicle back when I'm done way better than it was when it came in. Obviously it's not broken. All my fingerprints are cleaned off. Any little bit of mess I made, I try to, sometimes I'll vacuum them if I'm not sure about it, whether I made it worse or not with my boots or something like that. But I didn't use a floor mat because it's got WeatherTech floor mats, so I can just wipe them down when I'm done. Plus it's all black. Anyway, back to our regularly scheduled dash removal. I think some of these screws might have to come out on these sides here. Let's do that. Well, I thought someone had this dash out of here before. This is the third. There's 4 10mm bolts across the front. I figured someone must have had it out of here before because they're really tight. But you know what? They got red thread locker on them. This is the part where I gotta put the camera down and put my finger here so I don't crack the windshield getting the Loctited dash bolts out. Red Loctite too, not blue. Feels like it's gonna snap any second, but the other 2 came out, so hopefully this one will. Okay, now I'm getting a little easier. Either it got hot or I'm running out of thread lock. Now you can't tell me that's designed to be worked on and repaired when you're using red thread lock, which is technically it's permanent thread lock. Unless you heat it up, it doesn't like to come out. It's meant to be permanent. Anyway, every day is like an exciting new adventure. It's like a theme park ride. Once you get enough screws out of there, it comes right off. It's a big deal. It looks like I didn't have to take the Identifix instructions. Told you to take those 4 10s out and lift this piece out with it. but it's attached to all the ducting, and it's not going to come out unless you take the HVAC box out with the dash, I believe. At least that's, you GM guys correct me. I mean, I don't know. It's my first newer Silverado. I don't work on a whole bunch of them. Surprisingly, everyone who doesn't really like Chevrolet doesn't notice that. But when you do have to, apparently now it's a nightmare just like every other vehicle. So the early Silverados were super easy to work on. This thing was a bear. I took out them 4 red Loctited bolts for no reason. Maybe they red Loctite them, they don't want you taking them out, I don't know. But anyway, enough of my cheese, wine, and crackers. I'll show you where the actuator is. That should be it right there. That little guy back here with the white sticker on it. That should be my left temperature blend actuator. Now I'm going to go in and get a blow-up diagram of the HVAC box and be 100% positive. Then I'm going to take it off if it is, and move the door back and forth, make sure there's no cracks or breaks in the door. We'll get a new actuator. Sure wish there was a easier way, but not much you can do. We all agree that this is the correct one based on the diagram I have. So I'm gonna pull this out and check the door. I pulled the one little Torx screw out, and there's another little Torx screw in the back. I got a sweet universal set up to try to get it out. Icon wobbly and a chrome universal from Gear Wrench. And I believe it's a carbine T15. So I'm going to try to get that little back screw out of there, and we'll be good. We'll be home free. Then I got to flip all those little levers and make sure nothing's broken inside the doors and stuff. If it is, and that's an HVAC box the way this is designed, it looks like. From the diagrams tell you replace HVAC box, HVAC module. Alright, let's get that screw out. Oh, don't be like that, man. Don't be like that. Do, 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 do. Probably can get it by hand now, I hope. Another important lesson, don't set sockets or extensions or ratchets up here, because stuff goes down this duct. Then you got to take more stuff apart. Alright, I think I can get to this little screw. Alright. Now, let's see if this door moves freely. Yep, everything's good with that. Okay, we're going to put this actuator in and see how it goes. This connector, I might need my pocket screwdriver, and it pops right out of there. And we'll be putting a new one in when we come back. Oh, it fell out of the box. That's terrible. We got a Napa Solutions air door actuator, made in Korea. That's interesting. It's alright. They make quality stuff. I don't have a problem with that. Made by Kim Jong-un. Let me see if I can get this thing in here without getting myself in too much trouble. There's a flat, so it'll only go in one direction. And I'm going to plug the electrical connector in first, because it's easier to have the connector in than just lay it in and turn it to line the screws up. Alright, electrical connector's in. Let's see if we can get the flat in the flat. Like this here. You got to recalibrate these when you're done too, of course. Put it all together and do the recalibration like I tried to do earlier to diagnose it. And it wouldn't respond, and they, if you remember, the data was red. If you haven't seen that video, go back and check it out. That's in. 2 screws, start putting this thing back together. Maybe I'll get it done before lunch. You guys saw it coming apart. I'll go ahead and go in a time-lapse mode. The battery hooked up, see what's going on. We'll have to do a recalibration, and then we can start it up, see how it's cold. All right, actuator learn. Turn the ignition on. That's done. Let this thing run through its thing. Takes about 40 seconds, just same as yesterday when I used this procedure to test them, and I got a code after clearing them. So hopefully today we won't get any codes. All right, relearn, recalibration complete. Turn the ignition off and back on. Okay. Please clear DTCs. Clear fault codes. Okay. Now we'll start this thing up, see what happens with it. Wish me luck. Alright. Got this thing running now. Just turned it on, so it'll take a second. But it already feels like both sides are the same temperature as it cools down. Gonna have to get them some radio stations in here. I thought this thing would keep the radio stations, maybe not. That's terrible news. I know I plugged everything back in, but it is not happy right now. Alright, see if we have any fault codes. No trouble codes, system normal, nice and cold on both sides. That's a scary thing though, you know, doing that much work, and you're basically shotgunning. But I eliminated every possibility other than it could have been an actuator, it could have been the door the actuator controls, or a linkage broke to the door or something like that. These are pretty good. If it had a circuit problem, it would set a code for that. If it had a control module problem, I guess there's a small possibility that it would have done a similar symptom. But I would expect different codes. There's so many possible codes for these things, and they're pretty good about it. Anyway, either way, it's fixed. So the amount of work it would take to get to it, and to get voltmeters in it, and to see if the control module is trying to work it. So it was worth taking a chance on putting an actuator in, because 99 out of 100, it's the actuator. I mean, I've honestly changed maybe 2 control panels, and I think they were both on Nissans, if I remember correctly. Compared to actuators, it's just very rare. Anyway, enough babbling. This thing's fixed. I'm gonna go out and check the fluids, program some radios, stations, make sure the clock's working, and we'll see what's next. You got a sweet Lincoln Navigator. Customer states doesn't start. So I asked if does it crank and not start, or does it not crank? And they didn't know. So I'm gonna find out. I gotta hook up my scan tool, see if we got communication and stuff like that. This might look familiar to you guys. Last time it was in, I recommended a fuse panel. She didn't want to spend any money, so I bypassed the problem she had with the fuel pump to get the fuel pump working. It's in the fuse panel. And she came to pick it up and said she was pissed off it was still doing the same thing, and it doesn't shift right or something like that, and it was fine before. I said it came in not running. I got it running, it was a crank no start. And she left here all pissed off, but apparently she's back, and they took her in, and we're gonna find out if it cranks right now. Nope. Alright, it's not a crank no start like it was a few months ago. Now it's a no crank. Let's see if we have communication and see if it thinks it's trying to crank. We'll find out where the starter relay is at. Could be a mobilizer or something like that. I think it's a 2003 Lincoln Navigator, and I think low fuel level, low oil pressure, check suspension, no odometer, press reset. Okay, it won't show me the mileage. Okay, and it's also not communicating, it looks like. Oh, something happened. Skip. So now I'm going to try to get this vehicle in here and see if that's possibly has something to do with the reason it doesn't start or crank. Well, while this is working, I mean, I don't think you guys need me to really give this a love rating, do you? Because you know it's going to be about a 1, right? It's 1 to 10, so this is going to be a 1. It's taking an awful long time to communicate, but my blue light's blinking, so it's doing something. And if it doesn't talk to the ECM, then I'm going to try to have it talk to any module it might be able to, so we can eliminate the possibility that's ALDO connection, something like that. If it talks to any module on the line, then I know my ALDO is good. It won't talk to the PCM, so now I'm going in the PATS module. I looked at codes in the PATS module and it said no codes, so now I'm trying to bring up data, and I'm going to see if the PATS system will acknowledge the key turning. I'm hoping it will. I don't remember offhand if it does that. I think it should though. Factory keyless entry, continuous codes, battery voltage. Well, it doesn't give you it. That's terrible news. Well, let's look at the data for the battery voltage, see if it's acknowledging some battery voltage on the 12.7. Okay. I'm going to try a different module and see if I communicate with something else. I didn't do a health report because I think it would take too long and the battery would probably end up dying. But I'm going to pick up another module here, restraint control module, see if I can talk to that. Read fault codes. Continuous memory codes, no codes. So it's talking to those modules but not the PCM. That means I'm going to go inside and Identifix, figure out where the PCM relay's at, It should have a PCM power relay, I believe they call it. It's probably in the same fuse box where the bad fuel pump relay is. So I'm wondering if that's a problem with the PCM relay too. So it probably needs a fuse box. That's where I'm headed. Let's go inside, identify which relay is which, because there's no cover on the fuse box, and Ford doesn't identify them for you anyway. You have to figure it out with some softwares. So that's what I'm doing next. Oh, that doesn't look good. We all know the problem's in the fuse box or the PCM relay most likely, because we got no crank, no communication, and this will probably fix it. I am going to stick a relay in that I had in my box, and we're going to try it out. Just for fun, and to cut a lot of time out of the diagnosis process. Oh, I hear it clicking. You hear it? See if you guys can hear it. Alright, something's happening, but it's still not cranking. I bet you the fuse box is damaged too much, probably. Let me hold it on crank and see if I can wiggle this. I got really long arms, kind of like T-Rex does, so we'll try it. Huh. Alright. Well, I don't feel the relay click. Oh wait, I think I felt something. It's hard to say. I feel something. Maybe this relay's bad. Let's try another one. You know what I can do too? I can jump out these two main terminals. These are the control terminals. This is in and out. So we can jumper those and see if we can get something to happen. If not, there may be damage to the fuse box that's irreparable, which needs a fuse box. Let's see. I'm gonna try my, this is a power relay for testing. It doesn't have any control legs. It only has the two main legs. You can turn it on and off with this rocker switch. So we'll put it in. This will just eliminate whether my, oh man, it didn't feel like it really pushes into anything. I think the terminals behind it are so got hot. You can see this connector is damaged from heat. It's probably the same way on the fuse panel side. Let's turn the key on, turn the relay on, and now see what happens. Nothing. Okay. Last resort, a bigger leg, something to jam in there. Maybe I'll get my power probe, put power to the output, and see if it'll start that way. This will tell you if you got power, ground, input, and output with the relay in it. And I have no ground, so I'm going to see where I can find out where the ground is. I'm thinking all the trouble's in the back of this fuse box. I'm going to need to talk to them about pulling the fuse box off the A-pillar and seeing how far we want to go with this. I'm not even sure if they charged her yet or if they're going to charge her. So let's go check up. This one was towed in from the body shop. They said they will not fix it. It does not start and run. I put the old Gulu Patriotic Edition 4,000 amp jump box on there. Sat in my box. Doesn't sound good. See if I can get this thing in the shop real quick. Otherwise, I don't think it's going to go anywhere. The Gulu sat in my box now for about 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I haven't used it or charged it. It's still at 100%. I like that. Got flashers on. Anyway, the car was in an accident and the body shop refused to work on it because it doesn't run. And I just put a jump box on it and started up. Although that racket from the engine, that's not good. All the lights on the dash are on, so there's some blown fuses or something going on here. That's not good. This thing revved to the moon and just blew something all over the windshield like coolant. Oh my goodness, people. What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? Oh look, it pulled it down quite a bit, so something's going on, like a short with the alternator or... Oh man. That's not good. That looks like transmission fluid. Uh-oh. Let's get this thing in the air. There's bad stuff. It's got bad juju going on right here. Alright, you gotta set the lift in order to lift it. So let's get that up, set up, and we'll get this thing in the air. Lickety split. This is a tough business for mechanics. Most days you have no idea what kind of work you're going to be doing. You can't just be doing radiators and brake jobs all day most of the time. Well, some of us can't. But there's definitely a thing where the body shop doesn't want to work on a car and the mechanics don't want to work on it, and nobody can understand why. But all I can tell you is this car has damage to the radiator and the fan is hitting it because of the front end collision it had, and the engine didn't start because of a dead battery, and the body shop won't work on it until it's fixed. But to fix it you got to do the front end work. So I don't know, maybe it wasn't that great of a body shop they brought it to. I don't know. That's where all that transmission fluid's coming from, the lines that got damaged in the accident, I would guess. Why the engine revved, I don't know. Maybe the intake manifold's damaged and broken. That would be my guess. Damage to the intake. It's hard to see here. It doesn't really look right though. But the engine revved up quite a bit. It was not happy about something. You know what I can do? I can pull codes on it. I might have to put my jump box on it or a charger back on it and see what kind of codes we have. But looking around, it looks to me like a lot of the problem is from accident related and a dead battery. Now there's transmission fluid that's burnt everywhere. You're gonna have a little bit of mess to clean up, boys and girls. That's alright. We just keep on rowing. You know why? Because it's Friday. And I do enjoy editing content and uploading videos for you guys. It's basically how I get to the week. I'm like, oh, the weekend I'll be able to edit my videos and have some fun doing that. It's a lot of work, but it's fun. There's my notes. I don't know if you can read that. The GoPro is terrible up close. I'm about 4 inches away to make the page fill the screen. Customer states involved in an accident. The body shop was unable to perform repairs. Customer requests we get the vehicle started so it can go back to body shop for repairs. Also note if no start is related to the accident. So, like I showed you guys, I put my jump box on it, drove it in, but these cooler lines took a good hit from the accident she had. Let's see if they want me to put a battery in it. Probably could bypass the cooler lines until the body shop gets it back. But feeling a little discouraged, but that's alright. That's alright. I did the Silverado today. You can't win them all. Alright, now that the charger's on there, this thing should give me some data. Don't tell anybody. If they watch my project videos, they'll want to wait and see it together. 2003 Chevrolet Malibu, one of the classics. One of the vehicles that General Motors made that I find to be very profitable. Easy to work on. On the love scale, this is going to be about a 5. They got seat covers on there, trying to keep everything fresh and clean and like new. So the next guy can take them off and be like, man, these seats are nice, thanks. That's what seat covers do. They keep your seats nice for the next person. Oh, that's not supposed to do that. 148,132 miles. ABS lights are on, brake lights are on, seatbelt light because I'm not wearing my seatbelt. I'm gonna get this thing in the shop and take a look at it. It doesn't start. They said this is a no start. So drive it up in here and take a look and see what Mickey and Minnie think. I think this car looks familiar to me. I think it's a regular customer, but we don't work on it very often because they don't drive a lot, if I remember correctly. It doesn't start though, so I find that kind of odd since I drove it in. But that's alright. Got a bunch of lights on. Let's see if it's charging and stuff like that, and let them know up front that I drove it in and see what's really going on with it. Maybe they have a connection to Paul Harvey in the afterlife or something like that. Something serious is going down. Well, the battery says 9 of 18, but it looks brand new. That's super strange. Got brand new terminals on it. Oh, look at this. Got custom battery cable ends. You guys know these are temporary ends, right? You're supposed to solder or crimp them on, and this is like to get you by while you order parts or But a lot of people use them permanently. They just require more maintenance, really. You got to really keep an eye because they soften and weaken, the connections loosen up and all. I always like to take a look at coolant, especially on an older car, and this thing's empty. So maybe it didn't start when it was hot because it was overheating. I'm going to put a little mix of coolant and water in there, 50-50 mix, so in case it holds it. Because they didn't ask about a coolant leak, they just asked about a no start. And then I'll go up front and let them know. Let's do a battery test. Enter. Regular flooded. Full crank and amps. You're supposed to really go by the car specifications, not the battery. But instead of looking up the specs, we'll just go by what says on the battery. It looks like the correct battery for the car. GM 78 series, I believe it is. 75. Yeah, group 75. 78's the big one, 75's the small one. Bad battery. Please replace. That was easy. 386 cold cranking amps. 92% charge. Alright. I didn't go up front yet, by the way, but now I'm gonna. Alright, there's no Mickey Mousing around up in this shop. I went up front, they said the battery has been a problem, and supposedly it didn't start for the guy. They towed it in. We charged the battery yesterday, let it sit overnight, and then this morning Bill tried it and it started. So they gave it to me. It said it was a no start, and I checked it and it started. So I tested the battery tests bad, and I told them up front, the battery tests bad, what's going on? And they said they had to charge it, but the battery's bad. So charging it will put a surface charge on it, but when a battery's bad, it doesn't retain that charge and give it off slowly like it should at a certain amount of current. What happens when the battery's bad, a cracked plate or whatever the case may be, the battery will just basically dump all its current, and it won't be able to dump much, and then it'll go dead and the car won't crank. So if it's sat another day, it probably would have been dead and wouldn't have cranked for me. So they're gonna sell them battery, and we're gonna wrap this video up. We're probably gonna do that Monday. It's late. We got about 5-10 minutes left in the day. So it's been a pleasure having you guys here. I hope you got something from it. A little bit agonizing for me. I try not to make it too agonizing for you guys. I want you to enjoy being here and watching my content. But, you know, like I've said before, and a lot of you guys have acknowledged, I'm keeping it real. The good days are good, the bad days are bad, and it's usually never a bad day. It's a vehicle or two, and in this case today, 3 in a row. But I still had fun. Still had a good week, took care of my family, got some people back on the road, and that's what it's really all about. I hope you'll torque the like button down at the bottom of the screen down there, and maybe subscribe if you want to see some more repair videos. I got my project truck videos, tool reviews, all kinds of tool related videos, and videos usually that combine a lot of those elements. So I hope I see you in the next video, because you're awesome.